Hey guys, what's up? This is Bobby Davis, the founder of Coder Foundry. I'm here with my producer extraordinaire, working remote, Kevin Doyle. Hey Kevin, say hello.
Hey, and I have a camera today.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I'm actually on here today. Some people were complaining yesterday about our terrible sound, and which was bad. And then I didn't have a camera, so I have a camera now. So
So
hey,
we
everybody.
worked all night long to get this new system up and running, so that we would have better sound this time around.
Sure, I haven't been to sleep.
So one of the things that we've been talking about lately is if you're in lockdown right now, and so let's say you just got laid off or you can't go to work or those kind of things, we want to know kind of what you're doing, and we think now is the time to reinvent yourself, because one of the things that I can guarantee anyone that's listening and talking about is that we are definitely going to get through this, period. There will be a time when we go back outside again, we can see the sunlight, we'll go back to work, we'll do those things. And the people that reinvent themselves or invest in themselves during this time will have that much higher capabilities of getting the new jobs when they come out. Having said that, I do believe that software development is still going to be a really big thing during this lockdown, after the lockdown. And so reinvesting yourself, learning how to code is something that you should be looking into. So if you haven't learned how to code yet, now's the time while you're locked down to invest your time into coding. So spend less time, playing games or whatever, and figure out coding as a career option if that's what you're interested in doing.
Here we go, good one. Naraj again. Can we call ourselves software engineer without an engineering degree?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
About doing the job, right? Not the piece of paper.
Yeah, it's about doing what you do and not necessarily what's on the piece of paper. Right. I would say you got to feel confident in your skills, and your skills is what gets you the job, and that's kind of what you're doing. I mean, if you're engineering software, you're writing code, you are a software engineer regardless of where you went to school. And a fun fact, a lot of people are self-taught in this industry. And so like you'll see a good 60% of the people are completely self-taught in software development. And so that should give you encouragement that not everyone that you have at a job is from a CS degree school.
Here we go. Glenn had some product ideas. This is cool.
To do project, what's a task manager? Probably
task manager. Yeah.
Okay, campground manager. Okay, that's kind of cool. So like if you're looking at Yelp Camp or something like that, Glenn, what we've done before in our videos is like we need to take Yelp Camp and put Yelp Camp on steroids. So if you're looking at Yelp Camp or something like that, another tutorial, do the tutorial, it's cool, and then take it on steroids. So imagine if you wanted a campground manager app, imagine what are the features it would have to be kind of real. And that takes it from sample app to professional app that someone might actually use. And that's the thing that you need to focus in on, is like building something that someone will use. And so like campground manager would be like taking rentals, making sure the spots are filled up, collecting fees potentially, things like that that you could put in your campground manager, you know. So signing up for campground, those kind of things. And there's a lot of apps out there. There's actually data out there that you can get a campground API data, and you can actually have real data in your app, which is cool. And then build a reservation system around it. That's what I would do with a campground manager.
Aram's asking, what's the best front-end framework?
So a bunch of them. We teach obviously Bootstrap in our front-end class, which is part of front-end. And then there's JavaScript, where we teach vanilla JavaScript and jQuery. But you can also use something like Vue. I like Vue because it's lighter weight. You don't have to buy into the entire ecosphere of like Angular or React. But Angular is more of a full-featured kind of ecosystem to build websites, and then so you have to use it their way. Vue's more lighter weight, where you can just use the JavaScript for the front end piece and still write your back end in C#. But yeah, there's a lot of them out there. But we use pretty much vanilla, jQuery, and Bootstrap. That may change with Bootstrap 5 since they're kicking jQuery to the curb. So we'll see what happens. So we may move to pure Vue and Bootstrap too as well later in the year. Hey, if you're liking this video, please remember to subscribe and hit the like button and hit notifications to be made aware of all of our future great content.
Hey, just tell them to smash the like button.
And smash the like button. So SWE jobs, how to apply to graduate SWE. I'm talking about software engineering jobs, maybe, or how important are data structures and algos for a junior dev to learn. I think the biggest thing that you need to focus on is algos and data structures are cool, but like I want you to learn how to build an application soup to nuts, front to back, so that you know how these apps are constructed. So just knowing algorithms and just knowing data structures is a thing, but it's not going to get you a job. So what gets you a job is your ability to actually build applications. So I always make the joke all the time, like I've never used a bubble sort professionally or made one from scratch. So like, but it doesn't mean it's not good to know or it's not good to learn or you need to understand how it works. I get all that, but I think the more important thing is, can you construct a piece of software that works, that's functional, and meets the specifications that you were given? And I think that's more important as a junior dev, being able to do that. And then focus on the computer science stuff as you're interested in learning and reading about it. You know, definitely knowing the difference between a linked list and like an array is important, but it's not the only thing in the world to know. So a lot of times we skew too heavily on this. If we don't do data structure algos, then we seem ourselves less worthy and we won't take a job maybe. But I think that it's more important to say, can I build something either on Windows?
I think a lot of times,
mobile?
Yeah, a lot of times people are also afraid of getting that question in an interview, I think, too, and not knowing the answer.
Right. And so at Coder Foundry, what we want to do is, and I'll show this, is like, we want to add a, let me share the screen here. We want to augment your ability to interview with your portfolio. And that's where we use the portfolio as a sales tool. So like if you're over here and let's go back to her portfolio section. So this bug tracker right here is built in C#. This blog's built in C#. This is built in C#. This is built in C#. So when someone asks you a C# interview question, what you can do is refer to a piece of code that you wrote in this bug tracker and then ask them to look at it. And I think that's one of the things that you get around some of the code trivia interviews. And so like we turn them into demos rather than you answering 50 questions about algorithms or whatever. But you might get some coding challenges, and we do those too. So like we got her Fizz Buzz here where she can enter in 3 and 5. You know, if everyone knows what Fizz Buzz is. So we can solve it. And so Fizz Buzz basically prints out numbers. If it's divisible by 3, it'll print out Fizz. If it's divisible by 5, it'll print out Buzz. And if it's divisible by both, it prints out Fizz Buzz. And you can see here that she's got her Fizz Buzz kind of working, and then you can actually show her code. So you could put a lot of coding algorithm challenges on your portfolio as well. You notice what's absent from portfolios coming out of Coder Foundry is things like tic-tac-toe and game stuff. I don't think that's it doesn't show, if you're going to work on business sites, you should show business type portfolios and stuff on your site. I think the new superpower in today's world is being nice. And so like, I think being humble and being nice, willingness to learn, willingness to share is another big important. A lot of developers I meet want to keep their secrets secret, and they're kind of like information containers, what I call kingdom builders, and those types of people don't go very far. The ones that share knowledge, they're empathetic towards their teammates' plights, even people beyond IT. I go into organizations all the time, and IT and business are at war, and I don't understand why programmers want to go to war with a salesperson, but they do sometimes. And I think it's better to be an information sharer and being nice and being empathetic of what other people are trying to accomplish in the company and how IT can solve that. So I think those are definite skills that I think everyone can have.
.NET Core still growing.
Yeah. So it's humongous. Like it's huge. And it depends on what you're looking for. So like if you're looking for most jobs ask for Java Spring Boot, I wouldn't say that's true. I would say there's a lot of Java
Depends on your
Spring.
market, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah,
the other thing too. Depends on your
yeah,
location and what they're working on. In certain
yeah,
parts of the country or the world, it may be.
yeah. And .NET 5 will come out later this year. That will be the .NET Core project will be complete, and it's going to be called .NET 5. That'll be sometime this fall if Microsoft keeps up what they're doing. And then you'll have 4.5, which is the older technology. .NET Core will be renamed to .NET 5, and that'll come out later this year. And so there's lots of enhancements going out for .NET Core. Complete 100%, can run anywhere, do anything. It runs everywhere, and that's what's really cool about .NET Core, and it's also open source. Broad support for Dockers and containers, broad support for mobile, broad support for web, broad support for desktop. So it's just not one thing. Spring is a framework, and it's good. I mean, so like if someone is asking you to do that and they're going to pay you, I'm all about the paycheck, man. If you're getting a paycheck to do it, keep doing it. But don't think that .NET Core doesn't have any jobs. I mean, there's a lot of jobs out there for it. It's huge.
It's a good question about machine learning and AI. And
yeah. So here's what I will say about AI and machine learning. Without a doubt, it's going to get easier to do. And without a doubt, Microsoft and a lot of companies are trying to make it easier to do. Right now, it's largely in the Python or those kind of arenas, and it may seem scientific and it may seem hard to do. It's going to get way easier to do, and the cloud providers like AWS and Azure are making those things more abstracted from you, so you can just focus on the problem you're trying to solve. So look at Azure Machine Learning. You can look at ML.net, but literally AI for things like bots and answering questions and that kind of stuff is borderline magic up on Azure. I've seen like building bots and things like that's really easy to do. And the complexity of the types of solutions you can get to where a bot can answer questions like answering questions from a text message or a bot to do kind of customer service type things is really, really cool right now. And then just crunching numbers and crunching data is built into both AWS and Azure. And so right now, like a lot of that is Python, but ML.NET with C# is coming around. And I promise you that I've talked to some of the guys at Microsoft. They're trying to make C# the first class citizen to machine learning. And that's what they're working on now. So it's going to get easier to do. But learning the stuff from Python is where you want to be right now. But you can also look at .NET and C#, ML.NET, and see where it's going.
Actually, while you're there on that site too, this question's sort of related to that as well. Finding it difficult to get started with .NET with a friendly tutorial. We like the MVC movie that's on their site too. It's super good.
So there's also a core version of this and a Razor Pages. So I'm just going to go here. Just type in MVC movie. And right now, it's just like a step-by-step tutorial using Visual Studio how to do it. It doesn't get any better than that. I'm looking at the MVC 5 version, but there's also a core version and a Razor Page version. So here's with core. Should have clicked here. And so that's just type in MVC movie.
And that's a Microsoft tutorial too. So
yeah,
it's straight from the source.
Straight from the source. Easy to do. Definitely a way to get you started and show you what you need to do. And then everything else you can kind of Google.
What are your thoughts about WebAssembly related to C#?
Oh yeah, I'm big on WebAssembly and Blazor. So it's called Blazor. And I'm actually working on a Blazor project as well. And let me just see. I don't know if I can actually get that up and running real quick. But I'm working on a Blazor project right now in Visual Studio 2019. And I think Blazor is a technology it's a game changer because of the speed of how it runs and type safety and all those things, the improvements over JavaScript. Doesn't mean JavaScript won't go away. It just means that WebAssembly will probably be the next kind of massive change that we have in how we build web applications. And C# isn't the only WebAssembly language out there. There's a lot of people doing WebAssembly type projects. But it's definitely something that you need to look into. And I'll do a tutorial on another tutorial on Blazor here soon. Well, I did a video on this called Ageism. So go look up the Ageism on YouTube where we talk about this. But any success stories of students plus 35 who want to switch careers, and is there any age discrimination in tech today? The answer is ageism is real. You overcome that with a portfolio. We've had people from 59, but like I'm telling you right now, man, 35 plus that's not old. I mean, you know, like it's not old at all, man. You know,
it better not be, or we're in trouble.
I know we're in trouble. That means, you know, I'm ready to be on Logan's Run. You know, I don't know if you've seen that movie, that show where you had to die at age 30.
No, so, wow.
Go look up Logan's Run. I mean, like, anyway, it's a classic 80s sci-fi cheesy, but like, you know. But anyway, but if you're 35 plus, you need to be committed to your craft, and you need to have a portfolio to demonstrate that you know how to do it. The other thing too that you can really think about is, what have you been doing for 35 years? So like, how does your life experience matter? Which it does. And how do I apply that to the types of positions that that I want to go into? Does my life experience contribute to a company in ways, not just in coding, but other ways as well? So if you've been in the mortgage industry, then it's easy to work in banking for you. So like, those are kind of things. But if you have a portfolio, you stay committed to your craft, you can demonstrate knowledge, they're going to hire you. There's so many open positions. And so while there may be the odd company out there that only hires people that are 27, and I think that's a myth. I think a lot of people hire older people. They're adults, they show up. So those are kind of things. That it doesn't mean that you can't be an adult at 25. It just means that if you're 35 and you're committed to your craft, you can be definitely a valuable asset to what you're having. So, and I had a lot of comments that some guy said, I got fired because I was 42. You know, I don't know if that can really happen in America, but I'm sure it does. But if you know how to code, you'll just get another job. You don't want to work for a company that's like that anyway. You know, so contribute the best you can. Always contribute to the company and do the best work you can while you're working there, and you won't be replaced. It's hard to replace someone who's really delivering code and knocking out things and doing it. But like, you can be any age and break in. We had a lady here who was 59, 80,000 leaving Coder Foundry.
And that was super recent too. That was like the cohort before last, right?
Yep. Yeah. And I think ageism exists too. We have people coming through that are 18 years old, and people don't want to hire someone 19 to write code. So like, it works on both sides of it. I think 30 is the sweet spot, man. Like if you're in your 30s and you know how to code,